We have just heard Kol Nidrei, sung as a prayer. This recitation is unique in Judaism. It's certainly not a prayer in any conventional sense. Instead, it's a legal formula for the nullification of vows. It's said to nullify personal vows, the individual vows that any person might make to God. This prayer, which is recited at the very outset of Yom Kippur, arguably the most recognizable piece of Jewish liturgy, teaches us that words carry awesome power. This sacred, powerful, and iconic prayer revolves around nothing less than the sheer majesty of spoken words. The traditional text of the Kol Nidrei prayer, as translated into English, is this: light is sown by the righteous, and for the upright in heart, joy. And this declaration is made by the Chazan and repeated 3 times, with the consent of the Almighty and consent of this congregation, in a convocation of the heavenly court and a convocation of the lower court. We hereby grant permission to pray with transgressors. All vows and things we have made forbidden on ourselves, and oaths and items we have consecrated to the temple, and vows issued with the expression kanum, and vows which are abbreviated, and vows issued with the expression karios, that we have vowed and sworn and dedicated and made forbidden upon ourselves from this Yom Kippur until next Yom Kippur. May it come to us at a good time. We regret having made them. May they all be permitted, forgiven, eradicated, and nullified. And may they not be valid or exist any longer. Our vows shall no longer be vows, and our prohibitions no longer prohibitions. Our oaths no longer oaths. The cantor and congregation then say 3 times, forgive the entire congregation of the children of Israel and the stranger amongst us. For the entire people sin unintentionally. Please pardon the sins of this nation in accordance with the greatness of your loving kindness, as you forgave this people from when we left Egypt until now. And then it is said 3 times, and Adonai said, I have pardoned them as you have asked. The Chazan chants, all vows we are likely to make, all oaths and pledges we are likely to take upon us from this Yom Kippur and the next Yom Kippur, we publicly renounce. Let them all be relinquished, abandoned, null and void, neither firm nor established. Let our vows, pledges, and oaths be considered neither vows nor pledges nor oaths. Why is this statement repeated each year as Yom Kippur begins? Is it really a prayer? In fact, Kol Nidrei is not really a prayer at all, but a rather legal formula. The tradition is that 2 witnesses, each holding a Torah scroll, stand on either side of the cantor as he chants. The words are chanted 3 times, not in Hebrew, but in Aramaic, the vernacular of the Gaonim in the 6th to 8th century CE. Our sages in Babylon reserved Hebrew only for holy texts and prayers, not legal proceedings. Kol Nidrei is considered by many today to be the symbol of the Kol Nidrei service, but Kol Nidrei is not actually even mentioned in the Torah. Nor does the Talmud explicitly state that we should or even can annul our vows on the eve of Yom Kippur. The earliest liturgical text with the mention of Kol Nidrei is the Siddur of Rav Amram Gaon, between 810 and 875, where he writes, "One goes barefoot to the synagogue and takes out the Torah scroll and recites Kol Nidrei 3 times. Rav Amram wrote that the Babylonian Academy viewed this as a foolish custom and even forbade it. Rabbi Nissim ben Reuven of Geronas, 1320-1376, acknowledges the prayer, but recommends that we should not say it because it encourages leniency regarding vows. Maimonides does mention it, but not in his laws of Yom Kippur in the order of prayers or in his legal code. The 14th century Sephardi Catalonian Maksur in the Oppenheimer collection also does not include it. So why is it common practice today in the 21st century to say Kol Nidrei? Why do we continue this custom? The tradition is reflected in many Ashkenazi, Italian, and Sephardi Maksorim manuscripts. A 13th century English one, Etz Chaim, by Rabbi Jacob ben Yehuda, Chazan of London, also mentions the tradition to say it, quoting the halakhic ruling by Moses of Oxford in his work. The Kol Nidrei prayer reflects a period when making vows was not only in the context of a legal contract, but a common practice in social interactions between people. The binding status of vows and oaths and the consequences of violating them are discussed in the Torah and in rabbinic literature. The Torah recognizes that sometimes vows and oaths were undertaken without due consideration of the consequences. One making such an oath may not realize the difficulty of keeping it, and at times an oath was declared in anger or out of spite, and eventually the individual regretted his words and wished to revoke them. To that end, the Torah provided a legal formula called Hataras Hedarim, allowing a petitioner to present his case before a bet din in order to find a way to extricate the petitioner from his plight. Because we would never engage in a business or legal dealing during a holy day, Kol Nidrei should be recited before Yom Kippur begins, actually in advance of sunset. And this, of course, is why the Yom Kippur fast lasts for 25 hours. The fast begins even before the holy day technically arrives, when we're already listening to Kol Nidrei. Why do we use such a public declaration to usher in the most sacred day of the year? Isn't this the time to proclaim our collective commitment to engage in the act of Teshuvah? Shouldn't we seek to have past transgressions forgiven, ensuring that our names are entered in the book of life? Why do we ask in advance that we not be held accountable for vows we might make between now and next Yom Kippur? The idea of vows doesn't really resonate with the modern mindset. However, vows used to be serious business and were considered so by Hashem. In Bamidbar we read, when a man makes a vow to Hashem or takes an oath binding himself to an obligation, He must not break his word. Whatever he speaks, he must fulfill. A vow is much more than a promise made to God or to another person. It was a sacred commitment that couldn't be broken. And the Torah outlines in great detail who could make them and who was considered accountable for vows. We know, human nature being what it was, that many vows probably weren't kept, but the Kol Nidrei prayer may seem to provide a way to absolve us from this. At the precise time we are seeking to begin anew and to wipe the slate clean, we seem to be attempting to annul in advance careless promises that we might make. But really, the message of Kol Nidrei is much deeper than this. What we say can be just as consequential as what we do. For truly seeking to change, modeling our actions after our Rav, Mashiach Yeshua, drawing nearer to Hashem, demonstrating love for our brothers and sisters, we must begin with how we speak and relate to one another and to Hashem. Do we engage in Lashon Hara, speaking of others in a derogatory way? Do we intensify discussions with inflammatory comments? Do we find excuses for our failure to be attentive to Hashem, neglecting daily prayer and the Holy Scriptures? Do we skip synagogue services because we feel we're too busy or too tired? Or do we take every opportunity to express our devotion and commitment to Hashem and to our spiritual family? During the morning liturgy on Rosh Hashanah and on Yom Kippur, we read, "The great shofar is sounded, but a still small voice is heard." The prayer of Kol Nidrei should teach us the power of the spoken word. We should not speak our words lightly. We should not make promises lightly. At Sinai, we heard the Eternal One speak to us. He said, "Shema Yisrael, hear, O Israel. Take note, consider, think about what I'm saying." Words can be an enormous catalyst for positive change in our lives, beginning right now. The still small voice, the voice of Hashem, reminds us of our calling and our commitment as His people, His children. I pray that your Yom Kippur will be meaningful, thoughtful, considered, and in the end, that you will draw closer to Hashem.